What's up, everybody? My bronchitis finally seems to have gone away, so I'm going to try another live stream with the mic actually hooked up right. The one that we did yesterday or 2 days ago sounded horrible. So let me know if the mic sounds right. The mic is hooked up, apparently. Yep, looks like it's good to go. So, any questions you guys have? I got about 30 minutes. I'm going to be answering any questions about diet or exercise, muscle growth and fat loss. Actually, I'm going to change the banner. Ask a question. Fat loss and building muscle. That's pretty much what exercise is. So, first of all, on Patreon, I just posted a video of the truth behind mobility training. So you see this guy out there, a lot of people actually, particularly knees over toes guy. And people are kind of looking at him like he's some kind of genius or he has some kind of secret. So keep in mind, when you see somebody who is making outrageous claims and has kind of come up with something new, I would be skeptical because most of the time they're full of shit and they're trying to sell you something. So a lot of people have been asking me about knees over toes guy. And I completely ignored them because I really didn't even want to waste my time looking at this guy's stuff because my time is very limited as it is. And I'm not going to waste it looking at whatever new fad has come out. So after about the 100th question about knees over toes guy, I gave it a look. Okay. Just as I suspected, the guy is completely clueless. So what he does is he's promoting walking backwards for fixing knee pain. Now we need to remember one thing. There's about a zillion causes of knee pain. And they each need to be diagnosed and looked at differently based on what is causing the knee pain. So to make a general statement like pulling a sled backwards is going to fix knee pain for good is just idiotic. Because if you have a patellar tendon tear or degeneration of the ligaments in your knee, pulling a sled backwards is not going to fix that. But in general, if you were looking at his video of, and I've seen people, so I used to go to this gym, which was very close by, and they had a line of hammer strengths. It was, okay, but it was basically like a Planet Fitness with a different color scheme. When I used to go to that gym, I started seeing people pulling the sled backwards. And I was like, this is the dumbest shit I've ever seen. And of course, people will copy anything they see. So, and then I heard about knee over toes guy or whatever. And I since have stopped going to that gym, but there's nothing special about pulling a sled walking backwards or walking on a treadmill backwards without turning it on. You know what this is? This is just a short range of motion knee extension. I've been rehabbing people's knees for the past 7 years by doing time static contraction on a leg extension machine or knee extension on a leg extension machine with a limited range of motion. It's the same shit this idiot was doing. I've been doing that for 7 years. Because once you understand the physiology behind a knee and rehabbing a knee and building strength in the knee extensors, which translate to improved strength in the bone and connective tissue of the knee, then duh. So something this guy's been talking so this guy just does it really stupid. He performs limited range of motion knee extension by pulling a sled, which is dumb. You get a good Nautilus or a MedX machine like I had, which literally it has a scale on it to show you how much range of motion the particular client is getting. So what I would do is, obviously with knee extension, avoid full extension because this can be damaging with the load to the knee. But I would simply have my clients work through a short range of motion, record the amount of range they were using, then slowly increase it over time. Or pin the machine forward to a fixed position and have them do time static contraction. People have been doing this for decades. But knee over toes, idiot, just changed the way they do it, changed the way he did it by pulling a sled backwards. And then he claims to have increased his vertical jump to 40 inches and being able to dunk a basketball. Now, my first thought is when I saw this guy dunk a basketball, I'm like, how do we know he didn't lower the rim? Like, he might have. He might have lowered the rim to, because here's the thing. You know what the guy's doing? He's selling a book. You didn't notice? He's got 440-something thousand YouTube subscribers. Dude's making 20, 25 grand a month off YouTube alone. Then he's selling a book. So you got to remember, when you see somebody make outrageous claims and come up with this new weird shit, a lot of times they're just trying to sell you something. And he's selling a book. If you have bad knees, the worst thing you could do is put them in full flexion. For instance, the knee. Yeah, you don't want to put the knee in full flexion, because what this actually does physiologically is the knee is a sliding hinge joint. So it literally slides and hinges. So what this does is the patellar tendon on the outside of the knee literally pries apart if you bend your knee too much. It's literally prying the connective tissue inside. Just because a joint is capable of a particular joint range or a joint position doesn't mean you should be putting it in that. So again, patreon.com/jvincent. I did about a 20-minute video on mobility work, the science behind it. Do you need it? Don't you need it? I could tell you, but I'm not. So go to Patreon and watch the video. I've also got a couple more videos coming to Patreon. How to break a plateau. What it does feeling a muscle mean anything? For Patreon, I'm also doing a video on blood flow restriction training and the science behind that. So yeah, patreon.com/jvincent. I'm doing a lot of myth busting videos, and I'm also uploading full workouts. Now that I'm not sick anymore, I can actually do a workout. So I'm going to record a couple workouts, probably a time static contraction workout too, a small one. And again, if you guys want personal one-on-one coaching, if you want to spend 90 minutes with me going over your training history, finding out all the details about you, your training history, your response, your diet history, and then I will come up with a customized diet and workout plan for your specific situation. Email me at biofitny.com for private one-on-one coaching. I'll give you the workout and the diet. I'll also make adjustments to the workout and the diet because, of course, nothing's one size fits all. And I'll also spend time answering any of your questions, kind of like this, but in a one-on-one setting. So the good thing about coaching and one-on-one coaching is that when I talk to you one-on-one in person, I can convey this information a lot more clearly. All right, so the coaching clients I have, you leave a coaching call knowing more than 99.9% of the population about exercise in 90 minutes. I teach you in 90 minutes what took me a decade to learn. So consider a coaching call, bafany@gmail.com. If your results suck, they won't anymore. Leo K, I appreciate the super chat. Let me bring this thing up. Can hip be utilized to lose weight? Okay, yeah, diet is 90. People used to say diet was 80% of weight loss. It's literally 100%. All right, I'd say 95% of weight loss. The purpose of exercise in a fat loss program is to build or maintain muscle tissue as fat is lost through a calorie-restricted diet. So we're putting your body in a negative energy balance, okay? It will take from fat tissue, bone tissue, muscle tissue, therefore connective tissue. It'll take from all the tissues, because if it takes from muscle, the ligaments and the bones and the connective tissues are going to get weaker. So the purpose of the exercise is to place a heavy demand on the muscle tissue so your body sees preservation for the muscle tissue as crucial for its survival. So that way, if your body if you place a demand, if the environment is placing a demand on the muscle tissue that is significant, your body needs to keep that muscle tissue. So what it does is it mobilizes only fat tissue. It all comes down to hormonal signaling and different stresses from the environment. So exercise doesn't burn any fat. It doesn't make you lose weight. What it does is discriminate which tissue is mobilized. It's called discriminate weight loss. Place a heavy demand on the muscle by telling the muscle to get stronger. Not only are you going to build muscle in a calorie deficit, you absolutely will. But in worst case scenario, you will preserve whatever muscle you have. And the only thing that will be mobilized to make up the energy need or demand is fat. So I hope that answers your question. Again, if you guys want, I'm just going to go through in order. If you guys want your question answered first, just donate a super chat. All right, here's a good question. I just went through this. Best way to gain weight after losing it after being sick. You lost 15 pounds. Well, keep in mind, most of the weight you lose from being sick is water, muscle glycogen, and undigested food. You don't lose much muscle. You might lose a little bit of muscle, but being sick generally dehydrates you, and you generally don't eat all that much. So the weight loss is mostly glycogen stores and water retention, lack of water retention. So don't try to gain the weight back. Just go back to what you did before you were sick, your normal habits, and it will just come back on its own. Don't worry about it. You feel like kind of deflated, and it's mostly because of the reduction in muscle glycogen and water, because your muscle is 76% water. So when you're dehydrated, you're going to feel it in your muscles. Paul, thank you for the super chat. Jay, any recommendations on warm-up routine prior to a HIIT session? What are your thoughts on carnivore, keto, intermittent fasting? Also, please give Patreon link again. Okay. Oh, here's the Patreon link. Patreon.com/JVincent. I'll put it at the bottom, actually. Patreon link is now at the bottom. See, I'm getting good at this technology stuff. Look at me go. All right. Any recommendations for warm-up routine prior to a HIIT session? A warm-up is not necessary prior to a HIIT session because high-intensity training is low impact and low peak forces. The training itself is going to warm you up. The first couple of repetitions that aren't very hard. So you're choosing a weight that allows you to reach failure, hopefully anywhere between 6 and 15 repetitions. Anywhere between that is fine. The first couple repetitions that don't require very much effort, that's your warm-up. That gets the metabolism churning, that gets the cardiovascular system moving, blood moving, everything. There's no real need for a warm-up. I like to do what I call a practice set before I work out. So on the upper body, I start with a chest press or a chest fly usually. On the lower body, a leg press. I'll do one set with very little weight just to practice the movement. It's not really a warm-up, it's like a practice swing for golf. So I'll do that, and then I will not do another warm-up for the rest of the workout. You could, if you wanted to, do a warm-up for every exercise. The only thing is the workout's going to take you longer for no additional physiological benefit. My thoughts on carnivore, keto, and intermittent fasting for building muscle. Nothing beats a well-balanced omnivorous diet for building muscle because we're omnivores. Carnivore is bullshit. Keto is bullshit. Intermittent fasting is just a strategy for reducing calories. So we're not carnivores. We're omnivores. So you're not going to build optimal muscle. Most people really won't build optimal muscle without carbs. Want to know why? Because a large percentage of your muscle tissue is glycogen, which is the stored version of glucose. Glucose is when carbohydrates are broken down, is turned into glucose in the bloodstream, stored in the muscle is glycogen. That's like, if you don't have a lot of glucose or a lot of glycogen, your muscles are going to feel less full. They're going to look less full. And it's going to hinder your ability to build muscle. I changed my mind on carbohydrates over the past few years after doing more research. And I don't think you should be on a low or carb-free diet. I don't. All right, let's see. Going back in order. Again, if you want your question answered first, super chat like the other two gentlemen did. Let's see. Otherwise, I'm just going to go down the list. I got about 20 minutes left. I can do this. I've got a meeting. My supplement line, my first supplement, these guys, they're dropping in 2 weeks. So I got a meeting about these today. Thoughts on increasing strength endurance, aka work capacity. Strength and endurance go hand in hand. So a strength training program will increase endurance, local muscular endurance. The endurance a lot of people are thinking of is skill-specific endurance. If you expose your body to a certain activity long enough over time, it will find the most energy efficient way to do that activity. It will become easier. You'll start breathing less heavy. It will stop being as demanding, such as jogging. If you jog, jogging is going to get easier. You're not going to breathe as heavy as you jog. It's not going to be as hard. People think that this is an improvement in the cardiovascular system when it's really an improvement on efficiency of movement. So just strength train. Sippy do. I'm going to be the toes on your knee guy. Yeah. I should do that. I should just start doing bullshit exercise. It's just like call it toes under knees and just fuck up their algorithm. Okay. I'm doing a specific video on this in Patreon. Probably upload it tomorrow or so. It's about feeling a muscle and whether or not feeling muscle is important. So briefly, whether or not you feel a muscle is irrelevant. As long as you are moving through the path of motion. So each muscle has a function, okay? You should prescribe an exercise according to that muscular function, that muscle's function, and the joint's function. For instance, a row. If the goal of the row is to work the posterior muscles, the trapezius, the lats, the rear delts, the rhomboids, what these muscles do is they literally retract your scapula, pull your scapula back. So any sort of pulling movement is going to involve them. You might feel it more in your forearms and your biceps because there is more sensory nerves and more sensory input in those areas. And it kind of makes sense because evolutionarily, we would be moving our arms around. We would need sensory input if something were to hit our arm. You know, we need that sensory input. We don't need very much sensory input in the muscles in our back. That's why we don't feel them as much. That's why we feel the arms more. We don't feel the arms more because we're working them harder and they're giving out before our back does. We feel them more because there's more sensory input in them. If you fail in a rowing movement, every single time you have effectively worked and stimulated the muscles in your back. Don't worry about your grip failing. Your grip may die out a little earlier for beginner trainees, but allow time for the grip to catch up. That's all you need to do. Don't use straps. No point. Is there such thing as too much intensity? Absolutely not. You cannot train with too much intensity. You can train with too much volume and too much frequency, but you cannot train with too much intensity. You never want to pull back on intensity to accommodate more volume or more frequency. Intensity comes first, and you adjust volume and frequency to accommodate intensity. Can you talk briefly about delayed onset muscle soreness? Is it a metric of success? Does HIIT reduce delayed onset? No. Delayed onset muscle soreness, again, is just a side effect of using your muscles. It's an indication that you have stressed or damaged your muscles. It is not an indication that you have successfully stimulated those muscles for improvements in muscular growth and strength. Again, feel soreness varies tremendously between individuals. Some people get more sore than others. Some people don't get sore at all. Some people have have more of these feelings, but it's specific to the individual. So, delayed onset muscle soreness compared to conventional methods, conventional methods probably have less delayed onset muscle soreness because it's less muscular stress. Remember, consider that conventional methods are simply less effective, less time efficient methods. Okay. High intensity training is like using a mop to clean your floor. Conventional methods is like using a toothbrush to clean your floor. Okay. So when you try to compare things to conventional methods, remember, you're comparing an effective, efficient method to an ineffective, inefficient method. So any advantage that conventional training might have is simply due to the fact that it's less effective. All right, doing a full workout every 4 days, and my time under load is getting shorter on some and some on other exercises. And the same on other exercises. It's been a couple of weeks. All right. How long have you been doing this full body workout? So when that starts to happen, you never want to adjust the frequency. You want to reduce the volume. You want to take an exercise or two out of your workout. This is what the Body by Science community gets wrong. First thing you should do is lower your volume. Adjust the volume first. Adjust the volume before frequency, always. Because the volume of that workout might just be too stressful. You've probably just completely fatigued your muscle, say by the fourth or fifth exercise, and you're adding another 2 or 3 exercises, which is overtraining you. Adjust volume first. Start by pulling out one exercise. If the same thing is happening, start by pulling out two. Also, you got to remember that you eventually get to a point where your gains are slow. Slow is normal. The body does not produce strength gains and gains in muscle size quickly. It does not happen quickly. It happens for bodybuilders, which are on absolutely insane amounts of drugs, but that's a different story. Is physical activity after waking up to keep the joints healthy necessary since you've been stationary for 8 to 9 hours? Some guys do these moped. Absolute bullshit. No. No, absolutely not. The joints, you keep your joints healthy by keeping your muscles strong and by limiting wear and tear on your joints by reducing the amount of repetitive movements that you perform on a daily basis. Like jogging, for instance, will destroy your joints because it's an impactful, high impact, repetitive movement. If you're not doing high impact, repetitive movements, your joints are going to be fine. And you want to train your muscles. You want to make your muscles stronger in order to maintain or improve joint strength. When muscles get stronger, joints get stronger. Hands and fingers don't really get stronger. The hands and fingers don't get stronger. The wrist flexors and wrist extenders get stronger, which is going to impact your grip strength. Your hands and fingers don't get stronger, so therefore you don't need to train them. All right. You advocate a 5 seconds up, 5 seconds down tempo. Is that superior, inferior? Say 3 or 7 each direction. No, doesn't matter. Pretty much any rep cadence is effective. Just the slower the rep cadence, the safer it is, up to about 10 seconds. Anything slower than 10 seconds is no safer. The fastest you probably want to move is 4 seconds, because most people, if they're moving any faster than 4 seconds in each direction, they're going to generate momentum and higher peak forces. Peak forces increase the risk of injury. So there's nothing particularly, as long as you're training to failure with a high intensity of effort, your rep cadence is not going to make any difference at all whatsoever in any frigging way. Slower is just safer. In your opinion, does doing high intensity conditioning after a workout hinder muscle growth or strength? Yeah, because it can result in overtraining. There's no additional benefit to doing conditioning exercises after strength training, because the training itself is very stressful. It uses a lot of recovery resources, produces a lot of inflammation. So by doing 5 to 15 minutes of high intensity interval training like sprints is going to overtrain you. Do not do that. And there's also no benefit to doing that on top of regular training. You're going to have general and local improvements in muscle endurance and conditioning just by your body doesn't know the difference. You're still training your muscles. The reason you usually don't feel as winded doing resistance training exercises or weight training exercises is because of the venous return. So when you're doing resistance training and continuously loading your muscles rather than contract, release, like if you're doing a sprint or something, When the muscles are continuously loaded, they're pushing blood back up into the right side of the heart, increasing the stroke volume, increasing the amount of blood the heart takes in and pushes out. With this increased stroke volume, all the muscles are getting more blood. They're all getting more oxygen. They're all getting more nutrients. Your heart doesn't have to beat as hard. Your lungs don't have to work as hard. That's why you get less winded doing resistance training. The reason you get more winded doing sprints and stuff is because you don't have the venous return that resistance training provides. That's probably why there's still this weird dichotomy of cardio and because they don't know what venous return is. They're morons. Thank you for the super chat as always. Tell us more about your education background. What brought you to an Arthur Jones style training? Okay. Well, my college degree was a major in business economics and a minor in biology. So what happened was, being the idiot, early 20s fool I was, I thought that business economics meant good job with good pay. I didn't know what I was doing. But I was always interested in biology. So I took an anatomy course and a bunch of science courses and minored in biology. I think that's why I'm kind of good at this, because I just have the mind for this. For some reason it clicks for me. So anyway, I didn't go to school for exercise science or any of that bullshit, because most of it is that bullshit. So the reason I got into this was I was about 24 years old, about 6 years ago. And I wanted to become a fitness model. So I applied to a fitness modeling agency in New York City, the biggest one they had, which is called Silver Model Management. And the agent said, the agent accepted me into the agency, but said I need to put weight on. And at this time, I was about 192 pounds. I had been training my whole life. And that was the best I could do. At that time, I was training 6 days a week. Push, pull, maybe legs. I was spending about an hour and a half in the gym every day, multiple sets, 4 sets of 10, drop sets, blah, 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 blah. And then I came across a video while doing research on how to build more muscle. I came across a video by Dr. Doug McGuff at the 21 convention, the convention I now speak about high-intensity training at, which is kind of weird because I learned about high-intensity training from a 21 convention speech. Now I'm the one performing that speech at 21 convention. Strange how life works. So I watched this video by Doug McGuff, and you guys should watch it too. 21 convention Doug McGuff. It's got like 1 million views now. And after watching that video, he explained the physiology of exercise, the physiology of fat loss, and I was like, wow, that makes a lot of sense. So I started implementing high-intensity training protocols into my workout. Within 4 months, I put on about 15 pounds. So the problem was I was not training intensely enough, and my volume was too high, and I was not getting enough rest. So immediately after applying these principles, with all things equal, my diet was like pristine. My body grew like a weed, and I've been getting bigger ever since. Maybe I probably gained like 1 pound a year of muscle. Like it's literally that slow. So that's how I got into this training. And then, people saw my rapid transformation and started asking me what I was doing, and I started teaching them, and they found it very interesting. And then I started training people, and then I opened a studio. I worked for an individual who owned a MedX high-intensity training studio for about 1.5 years. And then I opened my own. And then about 1 year later, I bought his studio, the guy I originally started with. So I ended up with 2 high-intensity training studios in New York. And then I moved down here to Florida because I hate the New York weather. And maybe eventually open one here. So that's how I got into it. Let's see. Yeah. Do you know anything about being able to absorb 10 to 20% more oxygen by nasal breathing? Says a medical journalist. Again, like, people coming up with this weird stuff. Think about it this way. If you were able to meet the demands of your cardiovascular system more effectively by breathing through your nose, then you would probably naturally breathe through your nose while jogging. The fact that we don't, like, go out and jog. You're going to naturally breathe through your mouth because it brings in more oxygen. So I call bullshit on that one because if breathing through your nose were more effective, then we would naturally do that. We would have evolved to do that. That's silly bullshit. Best exercise for training neck and traps, shrugs. Your traps are heavily involved in every pulling movement, but if you want something that works them harder, along with the muscles in your neck, like the sternocleidomastoid, shrug. Any specific ab exercise you recommend to get the abs to failure the fastest? What works best for me is a crunch machine with weight. That's going to be the best. But I did on my Patreon, I posted a video of the ab exercise I do, which is usually just, I use a lumbar, one of those round lumbar pads, and I just do a crunch, and I got 6 reps before I failed. So as long as you're doing them properly, they'll reach failure really quickly. I'd probably prefer an ab machine, but the gym I go to is like a bodybuilder's gym, and they know that ab training has no effect on the appearance of your abs. So they don't even have an ab machine. They have 12 different leg presses, but not one ab machine. Again, Ben Pekulski owns this gym. He's pretty well versed in exercise. So just goes to show you. And he was a Olympia competitor bodybuilder. All right. Hit workouts with some brisk walking, blah, blah, blah. Daily overall personal fitness. No. It's weird because everybody's been so brainwashed and indoctrinated to think that like low intensity movement is good for health and fitness. No. You're getting 100% of the health and fitness improvements from intense resistance training. Again, your body improves by placing a demand on the muscle. The heavier the demand on the muscle, the bigger the improvement. That's all there is to it. It doesn't know how you place a demand on the muscle. You just need to place a demand on the muscle. Walking is just not very demanding for your muscle. Hey, what are you doing? Do you believe your method of training? Again, guys, remember, this is not my method. All right, this method has been around since weightlifting began. This is how people lifted weights when they first discovered it, and it was correct. It was popularized in the 1970s by Arthur Jones and the Mensers, and then more so in the 90s by Dorian Yates. It's not my method. Do you believe this method of training is catered more towards bodybuilders' strength? But no. It makes no difference how you apply. Again, how do I word this? Stimulating a muscle to improve is just stimulating a muscle to improve. However you choose to use those improvements, whether it's for bodybuilding, strength, athletics, makes no difference your approach to stimulating the muscle to improve. You need to aggressively fatigue the muscle. This will stimulate it to respond by improving its strength, its muscular size, and all the general factors of functional ability, which is cardiovascular fitness, bone connective tissue strength, metabolic efficiency. It all comes down to you just need to make the muscle tired aggressively. The method I use makes the muscle tired more aggressively than the other methods, more time efficiently and more safely. That's it. So there's no method that's better for a particular activity, because it is superior for anything. It's just more effective and more efficient. It's just, yeah. I mean, this is an issue of selection bias. Particular genetics and particular body types gravitate towards particular activities that their body type has an advantage in. Like tall people gravitate towards basketball due to the height advantage. People who grow muscle extremely easily with good proportions, low body fat, long muscle bellies, gravitate towards bodybuilding. People who have huge neurological efficiency, great levers based on where their tendons attach, gravitate towards strength competitions like powerlifting. The body chooses the activity. The activity does not produce the body. Okay? All right, let me get to the super chat. Paul, another super chat. Thank you. Which you recommend? A, B, upper, lower exercise routine. Monday upper, Wednesday lower, Friday upper. This is going to depend on your tolerance, like what kind of volume you can handle, how deeply you can inroad per workout. I normally start people on full body workouts, and then when it gets to the point where it's too much and they feel like they can't finish the workout, then I put them in a split. So you'd have to trial and error that. You could do that. It really doesn't matter. One is not going to be more effective than the other. You just want to use one or the other based on the volume you can tolerate. Because if you can't train all the major muscle groups in one session, then without overtraining, then you have to split them up. So maybe upper lower. I would probably recommend if you're doing an Monday upper, Wednesday lower, if you're able to do another workout on Wednesday, you might not be training hard enough. Again, everybody recovers differently, so you'd have to trial and error that, see how you feel. So you could try both and see how you feel. If you're doing Monday upper, Wednesday lower, Friday upper, and you're starting to feel run down and overtrained, then you're going to want to put more rest days in between there. If you're doing a full body workout and you're feeling like you're crapping out before the end of the workout, then you're going to want to switch to an upper lower split. All right, back in order here. And if you want me to answer it first, just do super chats like other people are doing, and I'll answer your question first. Where am I located in Florida? Tampa. All right, let's see. What's your advice on HIIT and weight loss at the same time? Is the myth that gaining mass and losing weight? No, that's well, you can't gain mass and lose mass at the same time, but you can lose muscle, or you can lose fat tissue and gain muscle tissue at the same time. And most people do. Believe it or not, a calorie surplus is kind of a myth. You need a tiny amount of extra calories to optimize muscle growth. Maybe like 50 extra calories to optimize muscle growth. Meaning, if you wanted to get into a calorie surplus, you would need to only eat 50 extra calories. A surplus of, and that's like 2 bites of food. But there's this really stupid belief that you need to have hundreds and hundreds of extra calories to gain muscle tissue faster. No, you'll gain fat faster, but you will not gain muscle tissue faster with those calories. You'll end up with pounds of additional fat, just ounces of additional muscle. And then when you go to try to get rid of that fat, you're going to get rid of whatever muscle you gained anyway. So the best thing to do, if you are overweight, over fat, and you're looking to look lean and more muscular, reduce your calories, a slight deficit, maybe around 500, and resistance train with adequate protein, and you will build muscle and lose fat at the same time. The thing is, you lose fat a lot faster than you build muscle. That is why people think that it's not possible, because muscle growth, I just already opened one of these. Muscle growth is slow. Fat loss is relatively quick. So people think that their weight's going down, they're not gaining muscle. Yeah, you are, but it's very slow. Just think about it this way. When it comes to fat loss, you have a fat cell, an adipose tissue cell. There's free fatty acids in it. If you are in a calorie deficit, the free fatty acids get pulled out, turn into triglycerides in it, get pulled out, turned into free fatty acids. The cell shrinks. All right, the cell's already there. All that has to happen is that the content inside needs to get pulled out. When it comes to, that's why it's quick. When it comes to building muscle, you literally have to build new connective tissue, actin-myosin filaments. You need to build those out of thin air with just the amino acids that you provide through protein. That's why it's slow. Capiche? All right, let's see. This is a coaching call client I had recently. Did the upper body workout today with the HIIT principles within the gym for just 25 minutes. Felt like he did a 400-meter sprint. Exactly. Because when you aggressively fatigue the muscle, you are aggressively stimulating the cardiovascular system. So like I instructed him, you don't want to rest intentionally between sets. You want to go to the next exercise, set it up, take a couple deep breaths, and go. You don't want to sit there like all these idiot gym bros Snapchatting bullshit before their next exercise set. Set it up, take a second, get in position, go. Do not try to rest in between sets, and you'll stimulate your cardiovascular system heavily. Hello, I saw that you never use a belt with gloves. Useless? Not useless. It's just you want to use a belt if you're squatting with super heavy weight, but you don't need to squat with super heavy weight if you're training properly. So powerlifters will want to use a belt because their goal is to move as much weight as possible, and they need the extra lumbar support. But if you're using adequate load, which isn't going to be super heavy, probably not going to need a belt. Gloves are just wimpy. It's just like, dude, don't use gloves. Build the calluses on your hand. Unless you want soft hands for some reason. Can I drink alcohol and still see gains? You can't drink a lot of alcohol and still see gains. Maybe a drink a day or a couple of drinks once a week. But if you are drinking several drinks a day or getting, intoxicated weekly on a regular basis, you are going to hinder your improvements from exercise. No way around it. Mostly because alcohol interferes with the mTOR pathway, and alcohol dehydrates you, and alcohol inflames you. Alcohol just sucks, guys. It just sucks. When you use alcohol, just remember you're giving up a lot of things with your health for it. So it's worth it to you, fine. Do you think Batman does it? Batman definitely does it. I actually know Batman personally. I trained him a couple times, but it was kind of awkward because he always wears the suit when we're in a public gym. But Batman used to do the traditional 5x5 starting strength, but then I showed him just through a quick, intense workout, just a handful of exercises. Batman has gotten way stronger since I started training him. Actually, I got to check in on him. Okay. I can't stimulate my glutes to muscle failure on the leg press with your HIIT workout because the quadriceps. All right. So this is what I was just talking about. Okay. You are stimulating your glutes. You would not be able to perform the movement if your glutes were not doing the majority of the work. Glutes are responsible for hip extension, meaning squatting position to standing position. That's what the glutes do. They extend the hip. They're the prime mover in this exercise. Just because you don't feel a muscle working in exercise does not mean it is not effectively stimulated. And just because you feel a muscle in an exercise does not mean it's effectively stimulated. So the reason your quads are not giving out first, okay, your glutes are giving out. You feel it more in the quads because of more sensory nerves in that area. You have a femoral nerve that runs beneath your quadriceps. Therefore, there's a ton of sensory nerves in that area. That's why the glutes burn so much, that's why the quads burn so much. So it is a myth that your quads are dying before your glutes on a leg press or a squat. They're not. You just feel your quads more because of more sensory nerves in the quadricep area. Please remember this. In about 5 minutes, and I got to head out. I got 5 minutes, so if you want your question answered, super chat it. Which body type is best for boxing? I don't know. Again, they have weight classes, so I mean, look, Mike Tyson, he was jacked. Great boxer. Floyd Mayweather, small. Floyd Mayweather Jr., small. Great boxer. Muhammad Ali, tall, lanky, not very jacked. Great boxer. I don't know. That's a tough one. I would look at, you'd have to line up 50 professional boxers, and then you'd probably be able to find like the average body type that is better for it. It's generally long arms. Body composition doesn't really seem to matter. High neurological efficiency, really strong bones in their jaw. There's a lot of things. I don't know. Ace, come here. Is it okay if I just go on a simple walk on rest days? Yeah, absolutely. You don't have to avoid activity. It's just don't do activity for the sake of increasing your fitness on top of resistance training, because it will not have an effect. Live in Colorado Springs, like go hiking places like Red Rocks. Yeah, absolutely. That's the thing. Things like walking, even like jogging, physical activity should be for leisure. It should not be for the sake of improving your fitness on top of your resistance training, because they have no effect. All right. I've done upper body HIIT. It's been around 3 days. My body's still slightly aching. Do you wait until you're fully recovered? Yeah, I would wait until you're fully recovered. Yeah, definitely. Optimal calorie deficit, there is not one. This is going to depend on how much fat tissue you're carrying. This is going to depend on a lot of factors. Your optimal calorie deficit is going to have to be determined by trial and error. Same thing. Optimal calorie surplus, literally 50 to 100. That's all. That's about all your body is going to use for additional muscle growth. If you are on 1,000 milligrams of testosterone, 700 milligrams of trenbolone, 200 milligrams of Anavar, I mean, if you're on all that shit, all those steroids, then yeah, you're probably going to be able to benefit from a higher calorie surplus. But for natural trainees, 50 to 100. All right, last question, then I have to go. If you want me to answer one last question, super chat it and I'll answer it. But I've got to go in about a minute. Are breaks beneficial? For how long? Yeah. Every now and then a layoff, like 2 weeks, a week or two maybe. But if you have the appropriate volume and frequency, you shouldn't need a break. I never took a break intentionally. The only time I ever took a break was for being sick and not being able to go. So intentional breaks, intentional layoffs, probably, yeah, that might be beneficial, but I mean, it's not going to have a significant change probably for most people. I mean, you've got to be training pretty damn intensely for it to have significant change. So, all right, guys, this is it for me. I have to go. Again, I'm doing videos. I just posted a video on mobility work, the physiology behind mobility work, patreon.com/Jay Vincent. If you want to see that, join. I'll be posting videos on how to break plateaus on Patreon, how to identify a plateau. I'll be posting a video on explaining blood flow restriction training and if it is beneficial on Patreon. And also on the physiology behind feeling a muscle. Do you need to feel a muscle during an exercise or not? That's all going to be on patreon.com/Jay Vincent. If you want private coaching from me, if you want me to personally explain these principles to you in a way that you will easily understand so that way you can apply them to your training fast, email me at biofitny@gmail.com and book a private one-on-one session with me. I will also write you a customized diet and workout plan based on what we discover about your training history and your physiology, and I will also make adjustments to them. So learn everything I learned in a decade in 90 minutes by booking a coaching call at biofitny@gmail.com. Oh, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that. The donation. Yeah, again, if you want to, learn more about these exercise topics, I got a ton of videos on YouTube and the Patreon. Thank you for the donation. I really appreciate that. One more. At-home workout for pandemic. I am going to be recording an at-home time static contraction workout this week, and it's going to be for sale. So basically, I'm going to record the workout. I'm going to put it in an Excel spreadsheet with private YouTube links explaining, demonstrating, and showing all the time static contraction at-home workouts, and I'm going to be selling it. So at the end of this week, if you would like an at-home time static contraction workout, email me, and I will send you the Excel spreadsheet, which has private YouTube links for all the exercises you can do at home. All right, guys. Like, subscribe, bell icon, follow me on Instagram, _J_Vincent. And I'll do another one of these at some point this week. So, see you guys soon.